Mhm. Well, welcome to the History of LA Ska one-on-one sessions. And I want to remind our viewers and listeners that this amazing series celebrates the ska, rocksteady, and vintage reggae scene in Southern California and beyond through insightful conversations with legends and modern day talents that includes many people who have consistently and brilliantly worked behind this scene to get this thing going. So with great joy, whether you watch us on YouTube or listen as a podcast episode, thanks to your priceless support. Sharing today with our visionary producer, talented and amazing, disciplined Eric Kohler. How is everything, Mr. Kohler?
Everything's good, Junior. Thank you very much for that introduction.
All right, sir.
Everything you do on this series, and we're super excited for this episode in particular. And I'm going to let you do the introduction, Mr. Francis.
I meant, all right, it is with great joy that we welcome today's longtime staple on Southern California traditional ska and rocksteady scene, singing in the veteran Ocean 11 band, one and only Queen P. She also played with LA All-Star Revue, played a very important role. Queen P, Persephone, and Laird, how are you this evening or tonight, as the case may be?
I'm very well. Thank you for having me, you guys. I'm really excited to be here.
Yes.
Honored.
We're very happy to have you, Persephone, and everything Junior mentioned obviously is very true, but also you're just a big supporter, and you put a lot of heart and energy and creativity into the scene that we're going to dive deep and talk through this interview about. And we're also going to be talking about a very special event happening August 20th, which we'll get to here in a second. Junior?
Yes, so and the world is being excited that Ocean 11 will be reforming for this very special occasion on Saturday, August the 20th at the elegant and upscale Rey Theatre in Los Angeles. The city has been often referred to as the entertainment capital of the world. The king of ska, the incomparable Derrick Morgan, along with Ocean 11, and Derrick will be backed by the Steady 45. And the same building will be the Capsules, DJs Nina Reggae, Mila, and Lady Isla. Wow. Somewhere in there is the one and only Queen P, Ocean 11 reunion.
Yes. And while we're on that subject, in case it's your first time hearing about it, or you might be hesitating, tickets do remain available right now at thelray.com or axs.com. It's going to be a night to remember. Super excited. Junior and I have worked with Derrick Morgan a number of times over the years. Queen P, we know that you have. So we're going to be talking about Derrick. But before we dive deeper into this monumental show, if you don't mind, let's start with you. Nathan and your son recently relocated from Southern California to Northern California. Talk about, because if I'm not mistaken, you either grew up here in Southern California, but you definitely spent a lot of time. So I can imagine it's quite a change, but just touch on that, if you will.
I was wondering if you were going to ask me that. Yeah, I actually was born and raised and lived in Los Angeles my whole life. So it's definitely a change. It became a little challenging during COVID. In my career and in my work, and with, keeping our children in school and being able to work at the same time. I was able to run a school for a lot of families during COVID to help with children from his school. And I did that with a partner of mine. But then when it just kept going and the next wave kept happening, his school closed down their after school program. So we just were fortunate enough to have a friend say, hey, there's a house up here for rent next door, come up now. And we packed up within 5 days, and wow. I got a new job at a beautiful school that Eris actually goes to, and we're excited about that. So it's a huge change. I miss everybody. I miss the ocean. I miss, the weather sometimes, but I think we're finding our way. It's very beautiful up here. We have the ocean on one side, farms, and then the redwood forest. So, we're really lucky, and I miss you guys, but I'm so excited to be coming back to LA for this show and trying to connect with people. And I know a lot of people are coming, so I'll be able to see everybody's beautiful faces after 3 years of COVID. I think it'll be nice for all of us to be together. And it's just a great way to celebrate all of us making it through this time too.
And boy, these
are very well said.
Frightening time. Frightening
That's how I feel.
Frightening time. Well, so what's the weather like up there? I'm inclined to believe it's cooler than here in Southern California, right?
Yeah, and there's like this humble joke about the weather because it's literally the 4 seasons happen in one day. So you literally go through all of it one day. And we stopped listening to the weather forecast like 6 months into being here because you can be outside and it's sunny and then it drizzles a little bit and then it's foggy. And so you just have to like layer in your clothing and be flexible. And the one thing, I will tell you is I worry about the climate change. I think it's getting warmer in Los Angeles. So that's when I kept saying that we were lucky to be here, I believe that like the weather up here is going to really be something we're very grateful for in years to come. And I just hope everybody stays, safe and healthy and makes it through. But the weather up here is beautiful, and the climate and it's, we've noticed differences up here too. Obviously, when you go to a river or a lake, there's not a lot of water like there usually is. So it's something that, I plan to get involved in some way because I can see the environmental changes around us. Yeah. And, but the people up here are so kind and loving, and they take care of their community, and they care about the environment, and they take care of the trees and the forests and the oceans, and you don't see trash or litter, and we're very conscious. So I appreciate
that. Must be really refreshing to see.
Very refreshing.
Yeah.
We keep saying up here, up there. Where exactly are you? You're not denying, right?
I know. Even Eris today, he was
there.
like, Eris today said, when we go to the show, are we going south? And like, so we're up north,
All right, so we'll leave it at that.
Yes. Yeah. Persephone, you touched on this. So you have a history of teaching, correct?
Yeah.
Expand upon that if you can, just briefly.
Well, I grew up, in the theater. My grandmother owned a theater. My dad was an actor, and then he became a producer later. But I had a love for the theater. I grew up studying my whole life. And so, I went and did some outreach theater and worked with children like in elementary schools. And that was just a blast. And it was so neat to watch like how you could affect children's lives with theater and how joyful the experiences were. So then I started working. I was fortunate enough to work at a youth academy of dramatic arts, and I worked with kids for about 12 years, and I watched them grow up in that community. And then I started to think, I really love working with children, and I should go back to school and study. So I went back to college, and I literally got pregnant with Eris the same week that I started school. And I made it through all 3 years. I got my credentials in early childhood education. Wow. And so I started working at this beautiful preschool in Santa Monica, and just somehow that's just my career path that I ended up taking. I'm really grateful for that. It's a big change. I still incorporate music and theater into that, into the life of the children as much as I can. Man. So yeah. That's what I do now. Right now, I work at the elementary school. So when I opened up that school, I started working with older children in the setting, and I'm kind of wondering what to do next. Like, should I start my own school, or should I? I'm just trying to meet people and get involved in the community.
Mm-hmm. Well,
amazing. What was it like growing up, and what was your exposure to music and the art? You touched on it briefly about your parents were.
My dad was a jazz musician. He collected music. He played, he played in Europe. He played in the States. He had a different name that he would use in his jazz band, and he liked to do that as a writer too and producer. But his name was Eris, so that's how I got Eris, our son's name. But yeah. So he was a jazz musician. He collected music. He loved music. Our household was full of music. My mom actually had an all-female band. She had a huge band in the 60s. She took like old songs and changed them, you know, modernized them. They were sort of anti-war songs, and she was an activist. But we had music playing all the time in our household. Stevie Wonder, and God, I could just Sly and the Family Stone, you know, the Rolling rock and roll, soul, funk, jazz, all of it. And so it was later though in life that I got exposed to reggae by one of my friends was listening to Chuck Foster's radio show, and her mom would listen every Sunday, and I would go to their house, and then our neighbor across the street would always play Black Uhuru, and then of course I fell in love with, you know, Bob Marley and Toots and the Maytals, and then the Specials and the English Beat got into the two-tone era, and so that's how I started listening to more of this music. And I'm sure we'll get into that question, but music's been a huge part of my life. And I think that I finally found my music when I was exposed to the earlier 60s Jamaican music.
Mm-hmm. So do you recall your first live reggae or ska concert, and who that artist was?
Oh my gosh, that's a really good question. Well, I think, gosh, I don't know. I think that it probably was Madness opening for the Who.
Oh, wow.
Coliseum.
Yeah.
Probably was the first, like,
that's a huge one. Yeah.
All of me and my friends thought we were mods and stuff, so it was a big show for us to see the Who and then Madness. And we would go to this club in Santa Monica, 321, and I think one of the first songs actually that we danced to on the dance floor was Madness too. So and then the Specials, Fun Boy 3, the Untouchables, Fishbone, all the LA local stuff too.
So tell us how you met the other brilliant members of Ocean 11, and who were the original members.
Okay, I knew you were going to ask me that, and I'm going to try to be concise because I tend to ramble and I get excited, but there's different parts to the story. I can tell you like how they got together. I know for me, they were looking for a singer. They wanted to have female singers, and because they wanted to do Phyllis Dillon covers and tribute some of the female rocksteady singers. And my friend, this is a funny, I like this story, but my friend, we went to the Theater Academy at LACC, and David Leidner went to that school as well. And he asked my friend Nina if she would join the band, because she was a great singer, is a great singer. She sang with us a couple of times too, but I guess he played her Phyllis Dillon's Touch Me Tomato, and she was coming down the hall talking to him, and she's like, I am not singing a song about Touch Me. And I was like, what are you talking about? And so she started talking to me about it. And I had already started to see Rey, and I saw Ye Olde English playing because Josh went to the academy too. So I would go and see them live. And so I kind of knew members of the band a little bit. I knew Shannon and Josh from school. And then I thought, what are they doing? And I kept asking her more questions because I was curious. And I always thought, do I want to be in a band? Do I want to sing with a band? I didn't think it would be like a career move or anything. I just thought it would be kind of a hobby. And then, so I started talking to Dave, and then I actually asked Ye Olde English to play a special event. And then I started talking to Rey, and, you know, then he asked me to sing with them, and he played me Rocksteady, Perfidia, Don't Stay Away.
Mm-hmm.
And right away, I fell in love with Phyllis Dillon's voice. You know, I was influenced by Ronnie Spector and Chrissy Hine and Patsy Cline and Big.
Wow.
And I thought, she just has such a beautiful voice. You know, it's so lyrical, and she's just like a bird when she sings, and her songs are beautiful. And I thought, when I would sing them, I would kind of belt them out, because I felt like something like Can't Forget About You, such a powerful song, you know, when you hear it. And when we play it live, I felt like I found my voice by singing her songs. So that's kind of how I joined the band.
Yes.
I know for them, they quit Ye Olde English and started to form Ocean 11 right away.
Because there were a few members, right, that were in the Old English.
Yeah, and they wanted to do their own thing. They didn't want to do that era of Prince Buster anymore. They started to like Shannon, the bass player, huge vinyl collector. So he started to really just play the records for everybody. And he started to tell us, you got to hear this and you got to hear that. And we just started one thing after, I mean, you know how much music there is. So we sat literally and just listened to his vinyl collection. And they decided to form Ocean 11. And they had David Leitner from Ye Olde English and Rey, and then Jordan. And all these guys grew up together. So they all went to the same high school, or they knew each other through college, or they had been friends for life, or they had been in other bands. You know, they weren't just musicians, they were producers and engineers. They're very creative, very talented people. So they had a vision, and it just one thing, they built a studio, and the ball started rolling from there. And they knew what they wanted to do. And they also auditioned, you know, 2 other singers. I went away to college for a little bit, but I stayed in the band, and Desiree and Tiffany joined. So when I came back, it was 3 female vocalists fronting their band. And they did a lot. They had learned a lot of instrumentals. They started writing their own songs. They started building the studio, and we just, that's how it began.
What year did you join?
So they started in 91, and I literally joined within the first like month.
Okay.
The first show that we actually played was at my dad's house. I had a going away party, and I said, let's play. And we just did like, I think like 7 songs or something.
Okay. Yeah. So describe what the LA scene was like in 91.
Well, I think what I know from when I was away for that year, it really started to take off. And there was clubs like the Anti-Club, and they were playing there a lot. I know that when I came back, we were playing places like the Palomino. And so we started to get shows, but they were playing that year, and they were doing a lot of instrumentals. They still had Shannon in the band, who was the bass player at the time. And so they were really creating their sound. And so I remember when I came back, we played a few shows at those clubs. And then it wasn't till, you know, we started getting connected with Lewis and City Beat and started to play like the Whiskey and the Roxy and different clubs. And that's when you could really see, as far as what I saw, was the huge scene that was just starting to like grow and develop, and the community that's still, you know, what it is now.
Interesting enough. So Ocean 11 had the now out of print album, The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, I think on about 1995. Could you tell us about how the album was recorded and how the songs were selected to make it into a complete project?
So when I came back, that's when Shannon was going to move. And so he said, I have this vinyl collection. I'm bringing the whole thing over. You need to do whatever you have to do to record this. In some way, you need to preserve this and keep get as much of it as you can. So we sat down in my living room, Rey and my living room, and we had a little elementary school record player. And somehow, I don't know how they did it because they had magic, but they took it through, you know, the tape into cassettes, and we recorded everything we possibly could. I think there was 30 cassettes, and I would sit there and number all of them and write every single song and every single track on the back of this. And I think around tape 23, I was like, I don't know if I could do this anymore. But that's when I started to hear a lot of the songs that we all love, like Solid as a Rock. And when we heard say it again.
Yeah, I love that one.
Oh yeah, when we heard the whole Scratch album, you know, we just Rose Duck, all those songs, we fell in love. And I was like, there's something special about these harmonies. Like for me, I had to really hear what Ocean 11 was about, because they had already established a sound. They were so talented, so gifted. So they had horn players that had played their whole life, you know, so they went to Hamilton, they studied music, everyone had already been in bands together. So they had this sound, which everyone knows. And it was a little darker. There was a lot of harmonies, really cool melodies. So anytime we thought about a song, we put a lot of thought into it, because we didn't play the more happy, dancey type songs. Not that we don't love those. It's just we started to develop through those songs and through those recordings our sound. We have the 3 female vocalists, so we had to listen to very specific songs like I Shall Sing, Rocksteady. What could we do that we could really harmonize on, that also had horn players, that had that beautiful double guitar lick, great piano and organ parts. We had to listen for what each one of us brought to the band. And so that's how we started selecting songs. And then they obviously love, the Scottalites are a huge influence on our band and on our music. So we started finding the tracks that again lended themselves to our sound. So when you pick something like Confucius or From Russia with Love, songs where we could take that song and go in another direction as well.
Yeah.
Especially with our guitar players, with Rey and Jordan, their friendship and their bond. Also, you could see on stage through their guitar playing together. Everyone was bouncing off of each other. And so with the album, as we selected Let's Start Again and these great songs and Rocksteady and Can't Forget About You and Confucius, we also started to hear the duets. And I just fell in love with when I heard Stranger and Patsy and Derrick and Patsy. I was like, oh my gosh, Housewife's Choice is track number 1 on our CD. And that was very intentional because Derrick is the king of ska. And, it's a great song to start with. And I remember when I met him, I said, your song is on our CD. I hope that's okay. We didn't know it was going to take off the way that it did or the way that it does. And he said, please play my songs, let the world hear them. Yeah. So that's when I realized that was my mission. And our mission was, it was okay that we were doing covers, because through the covers that we chose to put on that CD, we were passing on the music. Because remember, this is before social media. This is before we knew there were vinyl collectors and DJs all over the world that were playing it already. We were passing it on to the younger generation that was in the audience. You talked about the audience and the scene. They were the ones listening, and they were the ones that were going to go out and find that record. And Lee Perry, he was the one that we sat and listened to his music. We didn't just say, oh, I love this song and let's do a cover. I mean, we listened to every single part. So when they recorded, they came up with, the guys, they set up their own studio, and they
geniuses. Yeah,
they are. And they came up with all these special little tricks, like putting the mic under the drum and, things like scientists would do, but they had their own versions of that. And they were bands were starting to use Pro Tools. And so they were really geeked out about that. So
to your point, Persephone, and this is all fascinating, and I love hearing the backstory. But to your point about covering songs, if you think about it, and I'm the first one to say this. My gateway, and I heard a lot of the classics from UB40. UB40's Labor of Love albums. They were covering some of the classics, right? And a lot of people got into reggae through Sublime, and so to your point, hearing some quality versions of those songs absolutely opens the door, and people then realize, oh, you know what, Ocean 11 may not have written this song. They did an amazing job covering it, but here's who originally did it, right? Derrick Morgan or whoever. So that's fascinating. And then when you all perform live, you did a lot of those same songs. Did you sprinkle in any originals?
Yeah, and I wanted to add one more point to what you just said, if I can, and I'll make it short and sweet. But even now with YouTube and people putting more and more music on there, I just discovered, and I feel bad that I didn't know this, but you can also discover that a lot of what we thought were their originals were also covers, because I didn't know that Solid as a Rock was an Ella Fitzgerald song. So I just heard her version. I was like, oh my gosh, imagine if I had known that, maybe I could have taken a little bit of her version and sprinkled it in, and we could have created our own song. But I think, again, that we kind of created our own sound, and live was when you were able to see those songs kind of go a different way, you know. And so with that, we did have originals, and from the very beginning, the guys wrote a lot of songs, a lot of instrumentals, and those songs are amazing because that's where they were able to bring in a lot of their influence, obviously from their families, like Oliver with his father from Trinidad and all his musical background. Yeah. And then David Leitner studied percussion and music in Cuba. So he was able to bring the music he loved and then create originals like Descargas, this beautiful instrumental that he was able to take a Cuban type melody and switch it, which they did obviously in Jamaica too, but he was able to create his own instrumentals too. So then I started to realize it was that same time when we were sitting down, and because we were listening to so much music, then I started to hear like, hey, wait a minute, I hear a song of my own, you know, and I would go and like sing in the shower and try to like come up with my own songs. And they were just starting to come really rapidly because I had now this vast knowledge of the music. I heard horn parts and chords. So when I wrote a song, I would say the guitar has to go like this, and I need the horn part to go like that. And then there's this little piano part that goes like this because I got so excited. So Best of Love was my first original that I wrote. Okay. And that's the one that really helped us too on Tazy's recording. Right. Yeah, because that was with Solid as a Rock. We recorded that live with him in you know, on the radio show. Yes. And so that was great that we had that original next to that cover, and people love Solid as a Rock. So they were able to hear both. And that kind of obviously took off because Sublime was on there too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and that's Tazy Phillips, obviously from the Ska Parade. I know Tazy's a big fan of yours and Ocean 11.
Yeah. Yeah. Big fan of Tazy's. We're so grateful to him, obviously, too. And then I wrote I Am Queen, because I wanted to kind of do a shout out back to all the kings of ska and the kings from Jamaica and say, hey, you know, every great king has their queen. And then I started listening to my girlfriends and their stories and thinking like, how can I tell female stories through my songs? So, because even Rey, you know, we were together at the time and he would say, is this song about us? And I was like, no, I just listened to my girlfriends tell a story and I wrote this song, like Misunderstanding, which was on Disco Ska, which also ended up being the opening song to a movie on Showtime. Oh, so wow. Some of our originals actually went out and became like, yeah, they were opening tracks to like independent films or, you know, yeah.
And you also had some songs on Blackpool and Steady Beat compilations, right?
Right. I Am Queen was on a compilation, and then, you know, their instrumentals were on compilations as well too.
And then $1 million question. Oh wait, go ahead.
No, please, Junior.
Here's $1 million question. Why didn't Ocean 11 release more recorded music?
Okay. That is a great question. No, and we actually wrote and recorded some. We have some that we did. And we moved into a studio together. We took this law office and we kind of switched it up and changed it around. It became a living space / recording workspace. And we brought other bands in to record, and we recorded there as well. And it was right at that time, we were also getting some interest from like MTV to send songs, you know, when like Hepcat was doing that and other bands. And I know there was a talk between Lewis and Sony as far as, do they have more original stuff? So we were really trying to get that ball rolling. I don't think we ever thought like we weren't intending to be famous or anything like that. I just think that like we would record all day if we could, we would write all day if we could, and we would play all day if we could, because we love being together and we love the music 100%. So, but it was at the same time that Oliver got offered to go on tour with Ben Harper. And I think for us, we always saw Oliver as like the prodigy in the band. He's, you know, he's just
timekeeper.
What do you call him?
Timekeeper. The drummers are called
timekeeper. Yes.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I couldn't hear you. But he's just a very special, talented individual and person, and we knew that he had bigger things on the horizon as far as his music, and he needed to be able to do that. So oddly enough, he left right at the same time that we had just started to record more of our own music.
Yeah.
And we played some of those live. We did play like our original, we started playing more and more of our own songs live.
Right. And for anyone interested, Junor and I did interview Oliver Charles earlier this year. So that's part of our podcast series. That was a really fun one. And yeah, Persephone, we're all super proud. The scene is really proud of Oliver and all of his accomplishments as well. So I had one question that just escaped me. I know what it was. Highlights from the 90s and performance-wise, Ocean 11, as you mentioned, you did a lot with Steady Beat Lewis and Whiskey, different shows along the Sunset Strip. But if you had to name a couple highlights from that period, because I know you did perform after that, but from that kind of heyday, so to speak, what would be a couple of those biggest shows or accomplishments there live wise?
I think that one of the greatest things about playing back then and doing all those shows was playing with all the other bands. So remember, again, we didn't have social media. This was all like, legwork. This was people going and passing out flyers and just word of mouth and like, when's the next show? And each band, that we played with obviously had their friends that would come, and it just started to build this big community. So when you would play a show at the Troubadour with the Allentons and C-Spot and another, there's like four bands that would play Ska, and it just seemed like this big event. You knew when you walked in the room, there was hundreds of people, the place was packed, and we were all going to have a great night, and it was just the best of times. And I'm so proud to be a part of that and to still be a part of that and to watch people make their own music. So that's just a highlight in general. I was thinking about this yesterday, like playing the Palomino with Hepcat. And I remember I hadn't met them before. And we played a lot of shows with Hepcat. They kind of took us under their wing. And I think that those were very memorable moments for us, because imagine an Ocean 11 Hepcat show was just like another event, right? It was just a great night. And so when I remember meeting Alex and he came up, and we were, oddly enough, I might not seem like it, but when I get on stage, I'm shy. Like we were the three singers, we were very shy because we were intimidated. We had these great musicians behind us, and we would stand in the corner and rehearse all the time. We practiced all the time, but it wasn't like people were going, "Hey, you did a great job," or "You guys sound great." It was just like we were all quiet and we played, and nobody ever said anything. And we were standing up in front of this audience, and we didn't talk much because we didn't have a lot to say. It was just like, we're going to play the music. And so I didn't know if I was doing okay. I didn't know, what it sounded like out in the room. And I remember when Alex came up and said, he gave me this big hug, and he was like, "We need a female singer. I'm just so glad to know you, and you have to come and sing with us." And to me, that was like, oh my gosh, these guys are amazing. When you see Hepcat for the first time, it's like, it just blows your mind because they're just so incredibly gifted and the band is so great. So that meant a lot to me. And then we got to, do shows where we were all packed on the bus, and we would go to San Diego and play the World Beat Center, and shows with Jump with Joey and the Scotalites and things like that. Those were great shows. Going to Hawaii with the band was pretty unique and special for us as well. So those are moments I'll never forget.
Amazing memories there. Yes. Junor?
Yes. So I want to bring back Joe. You mentioned, I want to highlight. So you started performing with bassist Joey Alchuda, originally from Los Angeles, and his Classic Rhythms supergroup. Share some of those incredible and amazing memories with us. The talented and gifted Joey.
Yes, and that's another moment too for me personally, when Joey asked, Oliver was playing with Joey at the time, and and Oliver said, "Joey wants you to come out and sing a song with us." And I was like, "Are you kidding me? I don't know." I didn't know if anybody even knew Ocean 11 or me at all. Like, sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, I had no idea. So He asked me to sing Don't Stay Away. It was at the El Rey. I was behind the curtain. I was like, oh my God, I was shaking. I was so nervous. And I came out and people were saying Queen Bee, like sang along with me. And I was like, oh my gosh, how do they know us? Because I don't know. It just, that was a really, really, really pivotal moment for me, because I realized I could keep going on as a musician, as a singer, and I could do it, and Joey took me under his wing and had me start singing more with him. And then I think he already had Alex and Destin.
Right.
So he had me join with them. And then again, I got to sing with them. So that was great because we got to pick our own songs. Joey picked a lot of the material for us. He had a certain vision as well. But oddly enough, I got to do Dep on Dem, Rita Marley's song. And that was a song that Alex had said to me at that Palomino show, you have to sing this song one day. So I got to sing it with him and Dustin at
full circle.
Yeah, and we played that club in downtown. We would play some of these
Bordello. Yes.
Oh my gosh. And we would play these clubs where like it wasn't the scene. I mean, people from the community would still come, but we were reaching a whole different audience.
Yeah, I remember. I went to some of those shows. Yeah.
Yeah, the place kept getting more and more packed, and then more and more people got exposed to the music. And that was like the best ever. We just had it was like a party on stage for us. We had so much fun.
Yeah.
So what time period was that again? What time period?
Say it again.
What time period? Just for the record, what year?
Gee. See, and that I hope they don't ask me dates because I'm totally going to forget. But that had to be what, 2005-ish?
I was going to say 4 or 5, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like it was during a time where like Blue Beat Lounge, I think it just started probably in like 02 or 03. But there weren't as many shows around, which is I think one of the reasons why that super group, right, that you were part of with Joey and Alex and Destin and everyone and Oliver was just that extra special, right? Because it was a chance for the people from the scene and people outside the scene to see some of these young veterans from this LA scene, right?
Yeah.
As this truly super group, not to use that term lightly, but it really was.
Well, another thing that I love about those kinds of groups too, like even with the All-Star Revue, it's like other groups spawn out of that. So the Lions came out of that, I know Malik sang with them and he's put together some groups as well. The Boogaloo Assassins came out of the All-Star Revue. So I love to see, and then the Expanders taking off and reaching a new audience because Ocean 11 had seen them, and then I invited them to sing with us in the All-Star Revue. And I think that to see the music keep just taking off, and hitting new audiences and people developing their own sounds is like really important, right? To evolve.
Great point. And we're on the same wavelength because our next question was about the LA All-Star Revue. So perfect segue there, Persephone. So what was the genesis of that? And who were you did touch on them, but who were some of the core players of that supergroup?
I think that as I realized from that show with Joey, like, okay, I can keep singing, and then I started talking more with people through Dancing Mood, that page that Jason had. Like Tony from the Allentons said, Persephone, people know Ocean 11, people know you, people still want to hear your music, and I started just sort of reaching out in different ways. And I saw the Debonaires play, which they were like my buddies, my homies, like during the 90s, and they were such a young band. And so I was like, are you kidding? I saw in the LA Weekly that the Debonaires were playing on Melrose at this club, and you guys were there, you and Junor. And I said, that can't be the Debonaires, there's no way. So Rey and I went down and saw them, and they were all grown up, and they developed their own sound. And so I realized, like, now I have these friends again. I'm part of this community again. I don't just want to keep working 3 jobs and sitting around after work, and I still want to be creative. And I decided that I could do that, I'm the kind of person that will put things together, create events, or just get a group of people together from doing theater, being a part of an ensemble, working with a lot of different people all over, working with kids even. So I just thought, okay, talking to Jason Lawless again, he was so supportive and kept pushing me as well, as a friend. And he always wants the best for everyone. And he's like, you're Queen P, you can do this. So I told the Debonaires, like, let's put something together. And I asked them to be like sort of the core members of the group. So Mike and Mono and Jason were the core members, and Tom. And then I didn't know if I would get a yes, but I asked Greg Narvis to play drums, and he was on board right away. And then I just started thinking from there, like, what singers could we bring? If it's an all-star group, can we bring up different singers, on stage? Like if we have 10 different singers or however many that would come up and sing like 2 or 3 songs each, would they do this? Would they be okay with that? And Chris Murray got on board. We had heard the Expanders and just thought they were amazing. And we asked them, and they didn't even know me. They were like, okay, whatever you want us to do. And so they started throwing in ideas about songs. And then I asked Chuck to sing with us. I started getting more horn players together. I asked Bill Purdy to join, and Chuck from C-Spot, and Kip from the Debonaires to sing. And that was great because we kind of picked these really rare vocal tracks, vocal songs and selections based on the quality or the tone or the person that was going to sing them. Like, what could they bring, like a really special moment on stage? So hearing Kip sing like a Ken Booth song, with his voice was really special. And just trying to look at like this 16, 17 member group. What could we do? Like if we had 4 horns, what kind of instrumentals could we do where they could all have a solo and really shine, and do something magical. And I remember our first show was at Zen Sushi. It's kind of a small place, but Jason used to do those shows where he had the upstairs room. So I met, I think like the Solutionaries played. I got to meet them and start to connect with them as well. And we played and the place was packed. And that show was great. That was a great show, our first show. And then you guys brought us on board to start backing the legends. And that just is a whole nother chapter of my life that I'm really grateful for.
Junior, that's probably another great segue.
So speaking of legends, working with some of the super fabulously gifted and talented legends from Jamaica has been of vital importance to you. Who was the first icon that you worked with, Queen P?
Well, when you guys invited us to back Dennis Al Capone, right? And Stranger, that was the first one, right? Or is
okay.
Dennis and Ken?
The founder.
I actually know, but then I just forgot.
Yes. The first one was Derrick
and Dennis. I got it.
Dennis. There we go. Yes.
Forget. Oh my God.
No, that's okay. Yeah.
No, yeah, because that was a big thing. It was Derrick, right? So for me, that blew my mind that I was going to be able to sing with him. And we took that really seriously. I mean, we practiced, like, especially for Dennis Al Capone. We obviously practiced for Derrick Morgan. That was super exciting. But with Dennis Al Capone, you have to think about how he's taking the rhythms, right? Mm-hmm. And each little part, you kind of got to know when he's going to come in and when we come in. And so we wrote all these really specific notes. And I remember people were like, Queen P, you're taking it way too seriously. And I was like, are you kidding me? It's the legends. Like when they come, I mean, they took it seriously too, but I wrote when you hear the cowbell, that's what you I had all these funny little notes as a singer, right? And so, but Dennis really appreciated that. When he came in with the All-Stars, he could just go through his songs. He didn't have to tell us what to do. We magically knew, from really listening. And we had Malik singing with us, and Malik kind of came in and did his thing. And then Dennis was like, what came over to me and was like, what's it going to sound like? What's going to happen? Will he know all the lyrics? And then, because Malik had his headphones and was like practicing along, and he has his own way of working. And I was like, Dennis, you got to trust me just trust me. When he sings, you're going to be blown away. And so when he sang Cherry Baby and he was up there with Dennis Al Capone, he came over to me and was like, oh my God, and nudged me like, this is amazing. Yeah. So that was a highlight moment for me on stage. And then just seeing those pictures now, even looking back at my first time standing next to Derrick, I think I cry every time I stand next to him, but I'm so grateful to you guys for those events. I think that was super special to have that many people there. and that many legends, you know what I mean, in one place. I mean, the Out and Ellis set, oh my gosh.
Eric, you remember all five?
Leonard Dillon.
So the first one, yes, and let's acknowledge Boris Mills, right?
Yes, sir.
Of Reggae Forum Productions and Tasty Fish Market. It would not have happened without Boris. But Persephone, to your point, one of the greatest live events that I've ever been a part of. And this first one, so I don't miss anyone.
Yeah, I'm messing it up.
So it was Derrick Morgan, Dennis Al Capone, backed by you and the LA All-Star Revue. It was Alton Ellis and Pat Kelly, backed by the Expanders, and then it was Owen Gray, backed by Aton and his Kingston Ska Collective.
Yeah.
And then we had the dynamic duo of Boss Harmony and Tom Chastain spinning, and of course the little known MC Junor Francis here. But yeah, I mean, it was incredible. And then there was the follow-up miraculously less than 2 months later, part 2 at that
close together.
Yeah. Yes.
Wow.
It was literally, because this was June and then it was late August, so about 2 months later. And the second one, I don't have a poster.
Well, Leroy Sibbles.
Ethiopian, Leroy Sibbles.
I have another visual.
There we go.
So Ken Booth, Leroy could not make it. He was ill. Leroy Sibbles, Ethiopian, and Stranger Cole. So you all backed Stranger and Ken, right?
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, monumental. Like, yes, a chance of a lifetime for all of us, really. I mean the fact.
Yeah, you're not kidding. It was the first time I saw someone literally had a meltdown at the concert.
Well, me too. And I remember, like, I didn't know who was who, and I was trying to be like, oh my gosh, I gotta go look, because I had never met some of them before. Like, even with Owen Gray, I'd never obviously met him, and now it's years later, right? So he was sitting there and he kept singing backups with Dennis Al Capone. I literally was like, why don't you come up and sing? He just looked at me and started laughing, like, okay, I will be singing, don't worry about that, but he was so sweet too. So yeah, gosh, the Out and Ellis set, I mean, the Ethiopian, all of them were so great. But I remember, we understand, and I think it's the same thing with this show coming in August. We understand when we're hearing something, how special that is as an audience. And I think that's what makes our community really strong and powerful, because we know, we are grateful for those moments, and I think that's what made that era with Ocean 11 really special too, because we didn't have social media. You couldn't go like something. We couldn't share something and have a bunch of people tell us they loved it. We just knew by being together with those other bands. That's why I mentioned shows at the Troubadour and Whiskey and all those events, because we knew, you could feel it in your heart that it was something really special. So when you get to see a legend play, and you know what it took for them to get there, you know what it took for the band to rehearse to back them, you know what it took for you guys to put it together, when is the next time going to be that you'll be able to see them. I mean, I'm grateful that we have a lot of people that are very humble about that, and I hope that is what stands out always, because it's important for us to really be grateful for these moments.
A lot of things we could have taken away from the show, we all take it, but one thing that I remember specifically was someone who has to remain anonymous. His girlfriend had a meltdown when Ethiopian was on stage, and I've gone to a lot of concerts. I mean, right, whether it's Northern or Southern California, but this young lady, she does really had a meltdown, complete meltdown, when Ethiopians did the first song.
Oh yeah.
So another guy from Jamaica said, in Jamaica, he couldn't go to concerts. So listening to Ethiopian as a child growing up, I mean, he loved the other artists too. But when Ethiopians hit the first chord, he said, man, he couldn't hold the tears.
Yeah.
Very rare I see people crying at concert. But yeah, those were memorable shows.
And the same way that Persephone, you and the fraternity of musicians and singers or Junior, myself, or those behind the scenes are so appreciative about these legends. These legends, and Junior's heard it, and Persephone, you've heard it, these legends that have come to town and that have worked with some of the most incredible modern day musicians on the planet, who preserve and promote and play this music of, of ska, rocksteady, early reggae. They're really appreciative. They really, really are. And they credit the musicians from the scene to be some of the best that they've ever worked with, I mean, even going back to some of the originators. So that's a true testament. That's one of the reasons why, right? I mean, Junior, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but one of the reasons why Derrick feels comfortable, working with you and in Persephone, you and Nathan have worked with legends, and they're comfortable with working with some of the same people, because these musicians and promoters understand that you really need to take good care of them with these musicians, right? And the venues and the promoters. And so it is pretty amazing, pretty exciting for the scene that we do get to see some of these legends. And Persephone, as you said, I mean, they're getting older, and during COVID, we've seen a lot of legends, a lot of the greats passing. And so it is important to get out and support and see these and show the appreciation too. So.
And it's a big deal for them to travel too, like they're taking a risk. They're
like
right now, I think they all waited and they've missed it, and they want to get back out, and they know that they're getting on a flight, they're getting on a plane, they're going to be around a lot of people. So it's like, it's time. I'm sure they want to do that. They made the choices that they're making. It's just, we need to remember too, that is to be grateful, like I said, for these moments, because it's going to be amazing. And I think Derrick's going to be so welcomed as we always welcome him. And I think he needs that love, he's probably missed that. And he's just so great. He, like the LA Times, when she asked me, what's the first thing you think of Derrick? And I was like, he's the king of ska. He's just, when he's on stage, he's the king, and he's such a beautiful person too. So I know we all love him.
To your point, Eric, that was Ethiopian's last performance in Los Angeles. He went back to Jamaica, and a few years after, Tom from the Dub Club asked me to contact him. And when I called, he just laughed about it now. He said, Junior, a call from you means one thing, a concert. And so when he went to immigration, they didn't give him a visa, and a few years after he died. So you never know when you're going to see these artists again. So whoever missed seeing Ethiopian at the founder really and truly missed a great show. Whether they stayed on by accident or by design, that was very sad.
You just made me remember too, Junior, that, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I don't want to forget. You just made me remember that Ocean 11 backed Alton Ellis. That was the only legend that we backed, but it wasn't our full entire band. We had some different players because we didn't have Oliver, but the Expanders were going to do it, and then they called us and said they couldn't. So we
was this at Alton's last show?
Yes.
Oh, at Hollywood and Highland.
Yeah.
And Junior, you and I and Ernesto were just talking about this. I regret not going to that show.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's right.
And I remember being on stage with him, and I don't know, when he was walking off, of course, I teared up, and he said, we'll sing together again someday, don't worry, and
yeah.
But yeah. After that, he passed. Yeah.
Persephone, who are some of the other legends that you've worked with?
Oh my gosh. Okay. I knew you were gonna ask me that too. Okay, so Keith and Tex, right? And then Errol Dunkley, thank you to you guys as well, and Ken Booth, and BB Seaton, which was like one of my all-time favorite performances because he has so many amazing songs and he's a wonderful person. We still keep in contact with him too. And then Alton Ellis and Derrick and Stranger and Pat Kelly, thank you to you guys as well. And oh my gosh, I didn't want to answer because I don't want to forget. Roy Shirley a little bit. We sang with him a little bit. I think one song when they played. Yeah, I think that's it right now.
But your work with Stranger Call is sort of unique in the sense that you played the role of Patsy and I think a couple of songs, right?
Yeah.
So in a backup capacity, but you split vocals with him and a couple of songs. And most of his trips here to Los Angeles.
Which is another full circle moment, right? Because as I talked about with Ocean 11, one of the first duets I heard was Stranger and Patsy, and I can't remember which one, but I know that, you know, being able to sing those again with him on stage was like, how is this even happening? Is just like full circle for me. I learned from Patsy, obviously, as a vocalist. It was an honor to be able to sort of, well, the way I feel and being able to sing their songs is like, okay, you can't see them. Like, we don't get to see Phyllis now, so we still get to hear her songs in some way. With Patsy, I'm so grateful that she was able to come back out and start performing too. But I think for me, even just singing a lot of backups on their songs, like, so I love singing backups. So the harmonies, like all those great parts, singing with another person like Malik. So singing and just watching Stranger on stage, but then singing with him, like when you turn to him and he's just smiling, and you know, I think he loves to be able to hear the female singing next to him, the Patsy, whoever's singing the Patsy part. Because I'll see, you know, other videos of other women singing with him, and I think we all know how special that is to be able to sing with Derrick and Stranger in those duets. Like, we're filling some huge shoes and singing some classic songs. So,
and you mentioned Patsy, she's been forced to retire from the stage because of forehead. She can no longer perform.
Yeah,
Patsy.
very unfortunate. Yeah.
You can tell me later that story. I don't know that story. So
we should give credit and acknowledge Warren Smith in Sierra Nevada World Music Festival. Warren, who we lost over the last couple of years. I know both Junor, obviously, you know, you and I and Persephone, you and Nathan worked with Warren, and Warren and Gretchen up there brought some amazing legends, a lot of the ones that we talked about, and even more up there to showcase, you know, to the audience. And so a big respect to Warren. He's definitely missed.
Yeah, second that. He's the only one who took the chance to bring Prince Buster to the West Coast twice.
Right. Yeah. Yes.
And people who didn't attend the festival now, they have to live with that sorrow and regret for the rest of their lives.
well, yeah, and for like, again, there was no social media. I was like, and so when I started to see pictures, like, I think Malik has one with Mark Quan and him in the van with Prince Buster, and I was like, what when was this? Like, I had no idea it even happened. I would have found my way up there, right?
I was there. I remember, I think it was it might have been in June 01.
He played 2 years in a row, right? Because the first band was like the Rhythm Doctors, and the
first time was Rhythm Doctors, correct, at the Marysville location, and then second one was back by the Agrolites at the Frogtown location. Yeah. Both incredible, both amazing. Yeah. One other musician, and it doesn't get much more rootsy than this. One of our all-time great bass players in reggae music, Foley Fullwood. You worked with Foley some. Talk about Foley.
Well, that, you know, was another part of a chapter in my life where after the All-Star Band and I think after playing with like the Delirians and working with Jason to do kind of a small tour with them and backing like a lot of the legends with Junor and the Delirians as well at Ska Mania. Then when Nathan and I got together, we started thinking like, what can, you know, he's always had my back and pushed me forward and tried to find ways for me to still keep getting out there and singing and recording and working with other people. And he's like, I can't believe that Foley Fullwood, because he's from Huntington Beach, or Nathan's lived in Huntington Beach for a long time, part of his life. And Foley has his shows right out there. And he's like, I can't believe that you've never been out there to sing with him. So he, with him and Tony and Santa and everybody out there. So he, you know, pushed me to do that and talk to Foley and set that whole thing up. And then he also started to set up just specific, because we found in working with Tony, he started to tell me like, you love rocksteady as much as I do, you know? So he's like, we have to do more rocksteady. And he just started telling me, come out and we'll do more rocksteady events. So they started making special shows just for that, you know, like a rocksteady day. They also brought Keith and Tex to play there. They also, Nathan put this together where they learned all the Ocean 11 songs and they did a set, an Ocean 11 tribute set with me, with the singers of Ocean 11, backed by the Foley Fullwood Band, which was pretty amazing because Santa Davis was playing drums. He couldn't show up to rehearsal, which of course he didn't need to, but when we started playing, my head like spun around and I was like, oh my gosh, because he just came right in,
Wow. Yeah, I'm kicking myself. I couldn't make it to that, but I heard it was pretty incredible.
Yeah, pretty incredible. So I'm great. That's a whole other chapter of my life too, just working with them. And I have their picture behind me right there.
I don't understand. So how was Santa able to keep the timing if he didn't know the song, no rehearsal?
Well, we obviously sent him the recordings. Yeah. But we had one rehearsal, I think the day before or 2 days before. And then, yeah.
Right. Wonderful.
So
what does it mean to be involved? I'm sort of going to shift focus now and ask, what does it mean to be involved in the steady film documentary, and how the interview sessions went? You were part of approximately a month or two ago.
Yeah, I still think about that because I hadn't done something like that before. So I was like, did I answer that?
The interview?
They interviewed us. They picked a special location for each of the different members of bands or artists, or I think it was 2 people from each band or maybe one. So it was Oliver and I from Ocean 11.
Was there any live performance? No live performance, just interview.
No live performance. I'm wondering if they'll use video or footage, or when they edit everything together. I'm hoping that they come to this show or something happens in some way. But yeah, I had never done that. And I realized after, that was pretty amazing because I hadn't seen Oliver for a while. Of course, you connect with people through Facebook, which I love. That's what I love Facebook for, because we can still follow people's journey and we can still connect in that way. But I was literally sitting next to him, learning about him and his old journey after or between Ocean 11. And for him, learning, I already knew how much he loved Ocean 11, but he always comes back to it as a favorite time of his life, his favorite music to play. Yeah. And after him explaining or telling the stories of where he's been in the world, who he's played with, all the hip hop artists he's played for, I was like, and you still want to come back to Ocean 11? It was that day that he said, I'm going to be in town this week and we can do a show.
Yeah. That's pretty amazing. And that's a great testament, obviously, to the.
So I just want to give the proper title. It's a steady film documentary.
A steady beat.
Steady beat film documentary.
Yes, yes. And we need to obviously give big props to Lewis Korea of Steady Beat Recordings, also Kat, Blue and Lewis for obviously their hard work. And that's clearly a documentary that I know they've been working hard on, in recent years, and one that's really needed, obviously, to talk about the scene. A lot has been celebrated, obviously through this series. You, Persephone, were part of the original panel discussion as well that Junor hosted at the Grand Museum back in September of 2017. I was just thinking about that today. You, Greg Lee, Joey Altruda, Brian Dixon, and Luis were all on that panel, and that was a pretty special night there.
Pack house? We had a pack house.
We did have a pack house. Yes.
Yeah, sold
out. And that was very special. Obviously, one of the main reasons that we wanted to continue this series here as well. Another question, another project that you worked on with Greg Narvis, where I think you did a couple of shows right down in Culver City. What was that? Was that called Rockin' Steady or Going Steady? What was that project?
That was called Going Steady.
Yes.
Greg I believe he was asked to put something together for this street fair they do in Culver City, like a street walk, and all the businesses are open and people come out, and they needed a band. And so he literally posted something on Facebook like, who wants to join me? I want to do a bunch of rocksteady. And of course, you know, we all started chiming in right away. And the really great part of that is I knew that Greg also loved to sing, because he would always say that during he would sing at all the rehearsals for the All-Star Band. And I said to him, like, well, why don't you also sing? You know, and he said, no way, I'm not going to sing. I have to play drums. And then I think he started thinking about it. He was like, well, why not? Why can't I sing? You know, and he worked with Eric Alvarez, who has played with many bands, Aggrolites, I believe, and Delirium's first drummer, maybe still drummer. I'm sorry, during COVID, I feel like I don't know where everybody's at, but I know that Eric worked with Greg a lot, took him under his wing and he mentored him. And so Greg and him had a great relationship, and he brought Eric in to play drums. Then he took on a singer role. So there was 4 of us singing, and we picked a bunch of great rocksteady tunes and big vocal numbers that needed a lot of harmonies. And we played twice, and it was a lot of fun. Those are the kind of events, again, where you reach people that don't know the music, that are walking by, and then they stop and they're like, what is going on? And so the promoters of that event invited us back the next year because they really liked it. So we did it again too.
Nice.
Let's talk about a few vitally important friends who we've lost over the past few years. If they were old, I would say they became ancestors, but they're too young. But they have certainly passed on. David Fuentes, Ike and Aaron Owen brothers, and Lawless. You mentioned him in passing earlier.
And
about anyone who you'd like to include. I didn't hear you, Eric.
Oh, I was going to say, and obviously, just late last year, Jason.
Right, I mentioned him, Lawless. I should have said Jason Lawless. For the, right.
And Jason Debonair's, right? Yes.
Right. Anyone else you remember, Queen Pete?
No, not right now.
Yeah.
I was remembering
those are people you have worked with closely. Any words or anything you want to say about them?
Well, I think that you just made me realize too that I was talking about Jason as if he was still here with us when I was talking about the All-Star Band, because I think that it's the most recent loss of all of ours. And I think that it's that they're all tough, you know, for all of us. I just think, you know, after COVID and knowing that, you know, people would be able to reconnect again. And I know for him that he, you know, just had recently gotten married, and he was such a great guy, and a lot of people love him and love playing music with him. So I think, like, I still, as you're saying it, I was like, oh my gosh, that's right, that happened. So it's tricky, you know, it kind of puts things in perspective for all of us, that life is short, but when we are together again, to be grateful for these moments that we'll have together, and to kind of honor them as well, you know, when we're playing, because people like that, like David Fuentes, you know, I know he's influenced a lot of players. He had his own unique way of playing the bass, and I know a lot of people like just really looked up to him as a musician, but not only that, as a friend, as a father, as a husband, as a bandmate. So when you see, like, I still think of that moment at his tribute show when everyone was sitting on the floor at the El Rey, and Joanne was playing a Hepcat song, just an acoustic version. I asked her, just play something real simple, and people just sat down, you know, because they knew that was a moment that we could all be together and honor him in some special way. Jason Wallace was very tough too, because again, you know, he gave so much of himself to people and their journey. You know, he didn't necessarily play in a band, but he loved the music so much. He was everybody's great friend. He was always on the dance floor singing. You know, he would go out of his way to help you if he could. So when you know that you can't see those people again, it's hard. And then Ike was a good friend of mine. We connected probably about a year before he passed. He just wrote me out of nowhere. He's like, I want to record you. I just want to make an album with you. I'll put together musicians. I just want to do something special. And we met, we had a couple more conversations, and then tragically he passed away too. So again, not being able to see, but knowing that you did some work with them in some way, like I have memories that I'll hold on to. You know, we did that Operation Ivy tribute with him and for him, and just knowing how much they contributed to the music. And like that shows again how strong our community is, because those are staples of our community, right? So we just got to keep remembering them and honoring them and live our lives to the fullest.
Yes, and all very well said. And Persephone, I do want to acknowledge and thank you, because you did play a big part in helping plan that Dave Fuentes benefit and tribute concert at the Rey Theatre, which was, as you mentioned, just extremely special to see, you know, the community and the scene come together. That was a night I'll never forget. So yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you for that too, for helping us do that.
Yeah, that was, you know, as we talk about some of these shows as well. I mean, the El Rey definitely has a nice history of some nice shows here.
Special moments, yeah.
Special moments, yeah. Next question, actually, the next two questions are going to be specific to women and women in ska, women on the scenes. So, how much do you feel front women, leaders of bands like Pauline Black and Rhoda Dakar, or Gwen, or Elise and Karina helped pave the way for you and some of the female singers from the scene throughout the 90s?
I think what I appreciate about singers in these genres of music is that they really are at the forefront of the band. Like, you don't just know the band, but you know the female singer. And I think that got challenging at times. That can be challenging. And I think the conversation that we're now having about women, and, you know, I see like how younger artists are able to sort of put themselves at the front through like a branding, or like really having a responsibility in the band, where it's not just, oh, you're the singer in the band, but you really front this band. You know, like I saw a really beautiful post about Maddie Ruthless, the Far East, where her band just one day decided to honor her online, you know, and I think that I started to see a shift, you know, like we know who Jackie Mendez is because she's put herself out as Jackie Mendez. I don't think I would have done the same in Ocean 11, because I think that Ocean 11 encompasses a sound, right? But I think Gwen I think all the people you named are really good examples, because they're strong women when they perform, their songwriting, their ability to be, you know, that they're musicians. They're not just like, again, singing, although I'm a singer, I'm a performer, but I know what my strengths are. And I think that it takes a lot of confidence. So we've had to have a lot of confidence to do what we do, but now we're also getting a lot of support. And I think that's really important for women to feel valued and safe and trusted, and not, you know, if you take risks, you're not like a little crazy like me. Sometimes people might think it's like, no, I have big ideas, I have big dreams, I have a big voice, and that's okay, you know. And so I think it just, I'm proud of what's happening now. But now that you've mentioned the people that you did, I think that obviously they inspired us, and we honor them in what we do. But the women that I represent didn't have that voice as much. And so I'm really thankful that I get to sing for them as much as I can. You know, when I heard Patsy's story, when I think about Phyllis, you know, I just know that I have a responsibility. Yeah.
And the 90s, for lack of a better description, traditional ska scene also had several other bands with female singers that I'd love for you to acknowledge. Some amazing singers at that.
What are you speaking on? I'm
Like Mobtown, for instance. Strong female vocalists, dynamics. So there were a few from the scene. And just for the sake of not missing out on anyone, I mean, I those two come to mind, right?
Right, and the cover-ups when they have the all-female
obviously. Yep.
And Tighten Ups. Also, oh gosh, now I'm blanking. from, darn it, Steady Ups had 2 female singers, and they were amazing.
Shanties.
Yeah, the Shanties. There you go. Thank you. Because I remember I actually got to go and sing a song with them. And that's another thing. Like, I felt like that was right at the tail end of when we were recording more, and we stopped playing because Oliver left. Those bands started coming up. So I didn't have a chance to, as much as I would have wanted to, go and see them play or go and support them as much. But I loved being able to hear that the music was still being carried on, and that women like Kingston 10, right, had female vocalists. So I got really excited that that was still happening, that I heard there were like 2 or 3 female vocalists, and I was like, oh, maybe we inspired people to keep, to do that. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
And you mentioned Far East. I forget where they're from, but great quality. Brooklyn, there we go. Yes, that's right. Yeah, they're from the New York area. And there's several others that now seems to be a really exciting time. And you touched on this, right? For female fronted groups, whether it's, if you look at it, even just, and I'm in Orange County. So here in Orange County, for instance, between 2:30 and Bite Me Bambi and the Stepdaughters and the Interrupters doing some great work right now. But Rockery Revue, and I know that some of those singers, but it does seem to be a pretty exciting time, right, for female fronted bands. And
yeah, I'm glad you brought up Rockery Revue, because that was my point that I meant to come back to, and I'm glad that you're touching on a lot of artists, is that they're amazing. First of all, I'm so excited for them, and I know that they're excited, and I think that they have a message through their music, that they're trying to say, we are here, we want you to hear us, we can do this too. And the fact that the whole entire band is all females, and they all are amazing at what they do. They also are really artistic with the choices that they're making. Like, they're taking more recent songs and changing them up, and that might have a little message in there, like an En Vogue song, or something that you wouldn't quite ever think that could be done, and then they do it, and they're so committed to it. And then they invite other female singers to come and join them. So I know that their hopes is, as they get to start traveling, that people will come and join them. Like, they talked about Rhoda coming on stage with them, and they were like, oh, I don't know if she would do that. And I said, she will if you ask her. Like, you just have to ask, because a lot of times people want to, and they're so grateful and thankful, and they're like excited by working with younger artists or people they haven't met before. So you never know until you try. And I know that I'll sing with them one day. And I always wanted to do a female thing, so I'm really excited it's happening. They're also really strong, and again, they're artists where, like, their name, what band they're in, and that's social media really helps with that too. I think they can put themselves out there in a powerful way, and people can hear them and know who they are. And then look how instantaneously they're playing now. They're opening for Hepcat, they're traveling to London. It just happened really fast because they have a high quality sound, and they know how to market themselves, and they have a message. So I'm proud of them.
Yeah, very exciting for sure.
Yes, so we must circle back to talk about this magical night, August the 20th. Why is Ocean 11 getting the band back together?
Oh, look at that.
Mean to share this stage with the King of Ska, the incomparable Derrick Morgan. And of course, not to leave out Steady 45, the capsule. Going to your reaction.
So I just have to say, I started noticing when I interviewed for the Steady Beat documentary that for me, things come full circle. So this is a very full circle moment for our band and for me, to be able to have Ocean 11 come back and to play with Derrick, him being the first track on our CD, us not knowing, like, again, the last time we played, there was not Facebook. So this band, these guys, they don't know. I had to tell them how much people know them, how much people love them, how their CD sells for $100 online, how people that love them and still write me messages and still ask about them and are traveling from all over the world. they don't really know this. They're not, some of them aren't even on social media as much. So it's full circle. It's exciting. I think that they're really excited and nervous to play. I know that they still have been playing music, obviously, forever, that they always will. They're creative geniuses, and I'm proud of them. And it'll be the first time that we're going to see each other, some of us, in person. I've had some Zoom rehearsals. They're rehearsing. I'm not going to tell you all of our secrets, but rehearsing on Zoom has been very interesting. But we've come up with a lot of techniques and to get around it, and we all sound really great. And we have a big band playing that night. So
What's some surprises?
Some surprises I'm not telling you, but yeah. So it means the world to us. It's full circle to be at the El Rey, to have you guys invite us to open for Derrick. They'll get to meet Derrick, which they haven't before, most of them.
Right.
Yeah.
But additionally, it's also the rightness of time for Oliver, because ordinarily he's on tour, especially this time of year. But it just so happened to be off that time.
He has a week that he's here. He has a week.
The stars literally aligned. You're absolutely right.
He said to me I told you at the documentary filming, he said, I have this week, let's do a show. And then I started looking for venues. And I think within a half an hour, like I asked Eric about the El Rey or something. And then you had already posted about Derrick. And it was like this weird timing thing. Yeah. It just was all meant to be. It just all came together.
It is pretty amazing. And you answered the question, but I do want to acknowledge that a mutual friend of ours, Persephone, a guy that I've known since kindergarten, Jeff Burton, who you went to school with, he and I were chatting, and he wanted us to ask you exactly what you answered, why now for Ocean 11, and you clearly did that. But I want to acknowledge Jeff, small world there. Yeah, no, it's going to be a pretty incredible night. And Junior, it's a certain anniversary for your homeland as well, right? We should.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
Jamaica's 60th. Year 1962.
Wow.
Yeah, I can't believe I didn't say that too. So yes, Junior, please speak on that, because that obviously is huge and very important and very relevant. And I appreciated that the LA Times is going to make this very special, because it's about time that we recognize that, and that we recognize the music and Los Angeles, and
and Derrick's role. I mean,
right, of course,
with independence.
Yeah,
as well, right?
he's been honored in Jamaica the week of before he flies to. The government of Jamaica is honoring him. And you mentioned LA Times quite a few times. Jessica, we should give props to.
Jessica Lipsky, yes.
Right, Lipsky, for her tireless effort in working to promote Ska. She did Pat Kelly, and that was his last appearance in Los Angeles before he became an ancestor. And Jessica took the initiative on her own. So I really and truly want to recognize and acknowledge her and express my profound appreciation to her.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Talking about the forthcoming article in the LA Times.
Yes, really looking forward to that one. And there's a lot of excitement about this August 20th show at the Rey Theatre, and we do expect a capacity crowd. So Persephone, we're really excited to see Ocean 11. Trying to think of the last time we saw you all. So at the Rico Rodriguez show, which is here somewhere, right here, Ocean 11, Debonair's, Allington's. That was 05, but Ocean 11 performed after that at some point. Is it or not?
Well, and also that show was at the El Rey. So
yes.
We played, so that again was a good example of the 2 years, I think, leading up to that. Oliver came to town and said, I'm back and I want to do a show with Hefcat. So he made that happen twice at the House of Blues. Then you guys invited us for the Rico show. And I think that was the last time we played like with a huge crowd. We did do a show for Luis, a Steady Beat show. We played a San Diego show. But again, that's another full circle moment to come back to the El Rey to play for a big crowd, lots of people. And what I love about this too is people might say, why now? But we have to think like 15 years ago, some people were, I don't want to say kids, but maybe they've grown up and they're able to bring their kids to this show. So when that keeps happening, like it's amazing. I can bring my son, and I wouldn't have my son if it wasn't for Ocean 11, because Nathan was a huge Ocean 11 fan, and he would come to the shows. And so, and his mom would come, and she's going to come that night. So it's full circle for everybody. Yeah. To be able to come 15 years later, more people are grown up, their kids are grown up, they can bring them. I know Jordan's son is coming with his friend. He's 19 now, so it's pretty amazing.
It'll
and
be
I'm grateful.
Multi-generational.
Yeah. Thank you. That's a good word.
Yeah.
Any closing thoughts, Queen P?
Yeah. Anything that we've not touched on or talked about that you'd like to share, Persephone?
I think I talked a lot, which I usually do. I'm just excited, I'm really grateful. And I think what's really special, like I said, is knowing that, everybody that's going to be there, like the fact that we have other bands playing that have their own community of people that come to hear them, like the Steady 45s have built up a nice following. The Capsules are coming down, down. Junor,
Down from Bakersfield. Yes.
There you go. Coming down to do the show. And then we have our DJs and Nina, coming, who was also a big part of the scene in the 90s. Yeah. So to have all of us in the same room, I think it's important to remember, if we keep doing these, or when you guys keep doing these, that the fact that you have these different bands, that you have Derrick, a legend, you have Ocean 11 veterans coming back together, then you have Steady 45 with their community, the Capsules coming in, and the DJs, we're all bringing people together, and we're building a bigger community and a stronger community so that these shows can continue to happen. So we need to remember this, because it's important to know that there needs to be an audience at these shows. We need to come and see these legends, and we need to be together no matter what style we play, no matter where we come from. We all love the music, and we're grateful for people like you that keep it going, and your work, and your friendship and your commitment to the music and believing in me all these years. I'm very humbled. So thank you so much, you guys, for having me tonight.
Well, we absolutely appreciate it, Persephone. Very well said. Yes, it is.
I think we reached our destination.
Yes, we have reached our destination. And Junor, thank you for putting together and organizing this show here. I'll show a close up here, right? You and Ska Mania, and obviously partners at Golden Voice. August 20th, Rey Theatre. Persephone, for tonight, love hearing the stories and your journey, and it comes across how much you love and how much you appreciate and respect the scene, and I've really enjoyed this. It's good to see you. It's been a little while.
It's good to see you too. Thank you. And I can't wait to see all of you at the show at the El Rey, August 20th.
Yes.
Yes, please.
Mr. Francis?
515 Wilshire Boulevard. Elegant and upscale Rey Theatre.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, on that, that's right. Yeah, celebrating Jamaica's 60th. On that note, Junor?
Yes, well, thanks to everyone who take the time to watch and listen to the interview series. It's been a wonderful series. Can I rattle off quickly a couple of names who we have interviewed, we have spoken to over the past? It's approaching 2 decades now, right? Sorry, 2 years now?
2 decades. That would be pretty tremendous.
2 decades. 2 years, right?
Yeah, about 2 years. We've been very fortunate to talk to a lot of the players from the LA scene. We talked to Lewis and Kat about Steady Beat film, Oliver, Persephone's bandmate, Jesse Wagner from the Agrolites. We spoke with Rhoda Dakar from Body Snatchers, and Karina of Dancehall Crashers. Just recently, Mike
Park.
Yes, that was a fun one. We did
Stranger Cole,
Stranger Cole.
Wow.
Yes, Stranger Cole, exactly.
Linval Golding, who celebrated his birthday yesterday.
Yes, right. Jerry Miller from the Untouchables, Greg Narvis.
Local hero.
Yep. Joey Altruda, Miss Pat, Norma Frazier. Who else, Junior? Carlos
Well, if we
Malcolm.
leave out anyone, I hope they won't stone us.
Carlos Malcolm.
Oh my gosh.
Recently, Pioneers, Jackie Robinson.
His birthday was 2 weeks ago. Wow.
Yeah, yep. Both Ivan and Greg from the Box Boys. That was a lot of fun. Authors, Mark Wasserman and Howard Parr.
Sorry to put you on the spot like that to remember all these names.
I'm trying. Apologies for anyone that we've missed. But this I believe is going to be number 42 in the series, Persephone. So pretty amazing. And you can obviously follow us at History of LA Ska on Instagram. My wife every day teases me that it looks like History of Alaska, but it's not. History of LA Ska. You can join our Facebook group, subscribe to our YouTube channel. So anyone that I might have missed, I apologize, but we're thankful and appreciative for everyone that we've spoken with. Junior, you're a master at this, and I'm really thankful for everything you do. Persephone, it's been a lot of fun. Where can people find you on social media?
Yeah, and I also want to say too that Ocean 11 is really excited to see everybody again, and they would have been here tonight, but they were like, you can speak better. They texted me things they wanted me to point on and not forget. So they're grateful for this chance to tell their story too. And there's an Ocean 11 page. There's all on Facebook. There's also an Ocean 11 page on Instagram. There's a Queen P page on Facebook, and then Queen P Music on Instagram, and Persephone Laird is my homepage.
Mm-hmm. Well, this series is produced by Eric Kohler for Rockery Radio. Follow at Rockery_radio for fresh daily Spotify playlists. Eric does this every day. How he does it, I have absolutely positively no idea.
Hold on, Junior, on that front, hold on. We also spoke with Chuck Wren. How could we forget, from Jump Up Records? John Roy from Smoke and Mirrors Sound System and Unsteady. Yeska, that was a really fun one with Fredo and David. I talked about our two boss DJs roundtable. I'm doing this now. I want to be legit. We spoke Talena and T-Bone Willie of Bite Me Bambi. Debonair's extremely special celebration of Jason Napanyan. Norwood Fisher, that was a really fun one. Of Fisher, Heather Augustine, amazing author. Robert Sotelo, a good friend of ours. Again, Robert, sorry I missed you. Courtney Miners, Culture Beat. Monique Powell, Save Ferris. Hold on, Aton. And speaking of Aton, sorry, real quick, Persephone, because this will air before Sunday. You are going to be singing with Western Standard Time. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm singing with Western Standard Time in Ukiah, Northern California, at Concerts in the Park, which is going to be special too, because that's obviously where Sierra Nevada was by. We're staying at one of the hotels that we all used to stay at with all the legends. And and I get to sing a couple Doreen Schaefer songs, so I'm going to honor her. She hasn't been able to get out there as much right now with the Scotalites, and so I went back and watched their videos with her. They're amazing, Western Standard Time with Doreen. So if you can catch those videos, or if you're up north, come and see me sing with them on Sunday.
Excellent. And just a couple more here. We also spoke with Nina Cole. That was one of our earliest ones. 2:30, Tara. Ken Stewart, Scatolites, another great one. And Rob Bucket from the Toasters, author and podcaster Aaron Carnes. Ted Morris, Two-Tone Ted Morris. How could we forget? Yes. I think that covers everyone.
Good job, Eric.
Rest assured, I'll never ask you to juggle your memory trying to remember 42 persons.
And I'm not sure, Junior, if you mentioned, but Keith Rowe of Keith and Tex, we spoke with him as well.
I did not mention it.
There we go. All right. On that note, Persephone, thank you. Give our best to Nathan. I love it. Yes. I'm very fortunate that I have that on CD and I'm not giving it away to anyone.
Except for me, because I don't have a copy.
If I give it to anyone, it would be you.
All right.
Thank you, everyone. And follow Junor Francis at Junor Francis on social media. Have a great night. Thanks, everyone. Really appreciate the support. Whether you watch or listen to us, thank you very, very much. So take care, everyone, and be well. Bye-bye. Junior, thank you.
Thank you.
Persephone.
Junior.